Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 102 Registration and Agreements webinar. This webinar is being recorded on February 10th, 2026, and information in this presentation is up to date as of February 2026. Starting off with our legal disclaimer, this is a reminder that Circular Action Alliance is not an attorney nor law firm and does not provide legal advice or recommendations. Please do not take our advice as such. Information in this presentation is not substitute for the advice of an attorney. Please seek the advice of legal counsel as necessary. And our antitrust reminder, as with the nature of EPR, there are many competitors on the call, so please do not discuss any of the topics on the right. CAA will not discuss any of the topics on the right in order to comply with federal, state, and international antitrust or competition laws. As a reminder, this is the 102 Registration and Agreement session, and this session will focus on how to register and sign necessary legal agreements like the Participant Producer Agreement, or PPA, and State Addenda with CAA. During this webinar, we will also discuss how to register for California, as it does require additional steps compared to other states. This webinar is the second session in our three-part onboarding series. We also have the 101 webinar that provides an overview of EPR, CAA, and resources to help you determine if you should register with CAA. Additionally, our 103 webinar focuses on budgeting for EPR fees, and the session will provide information on how EPR fees are set and information to support internal budgeting. As a reminder, if you have any additional questions related to registration, please email producer.support@circularaction.org. As for our agenda today, we will start off by discussing the producer journey, then dive into the steps of registration, talk about the details of the participant producer agreement and state addenda, and lastly, discuss how to register for California. And as for our webinar goals today, by the end of this recording, we hope that you have learned CAA's producer registration stages, know what information is required to register with CAA, gain a basic understanding of the contents of the Participant Producer Agreement, or PPA, and state addenda, and lastly, understand the California registration options and steps to register. For today, we will focus on registration, which is the first arrow in the producer journey. Before businesses begin their registration journey, there are two primary questions businesses need to ask that will help them determine if they are obligated under EPR laws. First is the material associated with my products covered by the EPR laws? And second is my business the responsible producer for those materials? EPR laws for packaging and paper vary from state to state, but are generally designed to apply to single-use packaging, paper, and some disposable products. As a first step in the process of identifying whether your company has obligations under an EPR law, companies should review with their attorneys the definitions of each material type to determine whether the materials associated with the products placed on the market in an obligated state are subject to EPR laws. Second, companies should review the producer hierarchy associated with the covered materials to determine if their business is the obligated producer for those materials. If you believe you might be obligated, these are the steps in the producer journey. Producers begin their journey by registering with CAA. Once you've registered and signed your Participant Producer Agreement, or PPA, you'll receive access to the producer portal where you will be able to select state registration for states you have determined obligation under. After registering and gaining access to the producer portal, producers will be able to submit a supply report for the various EPR states they are obligated in. Producers will then pay fees based on the report submitted into those obligated states. That was a quick overview of the producer journey, and for today, we are going to focus on continuing the registration process. Here is a quick overview of the registration process producers will go through. The first step in the registration process is to complete the registration form on CAA's website. The form will ask you to provide company information and contact information for a primary contact and an authorized representative. After submitting that form, CAA will process your information and send your company a copy of the Participant Producer Agreement, or PPA, via DocuSign. Once the PPA is signed, you'll gain access to the reporting guidance and will be set to receive credentials for the producer portal. For each state where you are obligated in, companies will sign a specific state addendum that outlines state-specific requirements and formalizes your obligation. Not all state addenda are finalized as they are dependent on the finalization of EPR regulations in states where CAA operates, and thus Oregon, Colorado, and California are the only EPR states that CAA has state addendas or interim state addendas for currently. Each state addendum will be developed by CAA and be provided to producers and will include state-specific policies, procedures, rules, and requirements applicable to the producer in that state. State addenda will not be required to access the guidance, but will be required to submit data to CAA in the producer portal. As a reminder, the Oregon State Addendum, Colorado State Addendum, and California Interim State Addendum are currently being sent out to producers who have signed their PPA and completed registration in those states. After both the PPA and state addenda have been signed, producers will have the ability to submit a supply report into the producer portal. This supply report will determine the amount of fees a producer will pay for a specific state program they submitted for. Invoices for Oregon were sent out starting in June 2025 for the 2025 program year, and invoices for Colorado and Oregon were sent starting in January 2026 for the 2026 program year. The stages of registration. So throughout the registration process, CAA uses specific terminology to describe the various stages and agreements producers will need to complete in order to become a member with CAA and a participant in a state program. Our account registration form begins your journey with CAA, and your company will become an applicant as you complete the form and CAA confirms your registration. Once CAA confirms your registration and the Participant Producer Agreement, or PPA, is sent to your authorized representative for signature and the PPA is signed, your company has now become a registrant with CAA. It is only when you sign a state addendum for a specific state program that your company becomes a participant in that state program and becomes obligated for reporting and paying fees for that state program. In this webinar, we will detail out the specific agreements, starting with the account registration form. As a reminder, producer policies are now available. In July 2025, CAA published 3 producer policies available on our Producer Policies webpage. CAA establishes and maintains policies that outline producer obligations under extended producer responsibility laws and participation in the Producer Responsibility Organization. These policies define specific requirements producers must meet, covering registration, reporting, and fee payment to remain in good standing and fully compliant with state EPR programs and CAA participation agreements. On the Producer Policies webpage, producers can find detailed standards for registration, reporting, and payment applicable to all participant producers registered with CAA. All right, now we will dive deeper into our registration process, beginning with the account registration form. To access the account registration form, you can find it on our producer registration page of our website by clicking Register Now or by going to circularactionalliance.org/registration. Who should complete the registration form? Each company must independently determine whether it meets the definition of a producer. This includes deciding whether your group of corporate affiliates qualifies as one producer or multiple producers. If it has been determined that your legal counsel that your group of corporate affiliates qualifies as multiple producers, each producer will register, report, and pay its obligations separately using separate portal credentials. If it has been determined by your legal counsel that your group of corporate affiliates qualifies as a single producer, only the corporate parent will register, submit a single combined report, and pay. What if you believe you might be exempt? So exclusions are generally categories of materials that are not covered materials under the EPR program. Therefore, there's no obligated producer and no need to register or report. In this scenario, the producer does not need to register, and we encourage those producers to still sign up for our newsletter in order to stay informed. There are also exemptions from programs that often require approval by the regulator for a proportion of volume that are covered materials in the program or a designation based on size, such as the small producer exemption. So if you have covered materials and are an obligated producer, you would still need to register, sign a PPA, and possibly you may also need to report your material supply if applicable, and ultimately attest to any exemptions annually for each state program in the CAA producer portal. We strongly encourage these producers to register and sign the PPA. You will answer reporting questions in the portal that will exclude you from having to report and pay fees based on the exemptions that you meet. The primary contact should be the one to complete the registration form on behalf of the company and know who their authorized representative will be to add them to the registration form. The primary contact and the authorized representative can be the same person, and if you need to change those designation contacts in the future, please email producer.support@circularaction.org. What information is required to register? All the information you see here on the screen is the data you will need to register with CAA. We'll ask for your company information and for contact information for two key contacts at your company, which will be the primary contact and the authorized representative. For the company information, we'll ask you for the company name, the tax ID, address, and website. We also ask for information like revenue and industry. We use this for data for prioritization and understanding the producer landscape. You can estimate your revenue or put in $1 if you don't feel comfortable disclosing your revenue to us. Finally, as I mentioned on the slide before, we ask for a primary contact and an authorized representative. Each company can only have one primary contact and one authorized representative. The primary contact and the authorized representative can be the same person. The primary contact will be the main contact on the account and the contact that CAA will notify on upcoming requirements or requests. You can think of this contact like the project manager of the account. The authorized representative is the person who will sign legal contracts like the PPA and State Addenda. And since March of 2025, both the primary contact and the authorized representative can submit supply reports to CAA on the producer portal. Okay, and with that, I will pass it over to Matt to discuss the PPA and State Addenda in further detail.
Great. Thank you, Savannah. Moving on to the PPA, what is a participant producer? A participant producer is someone who expects to be obligated under any of the past EPR laws where CA has been selected as the pro. Each company must review the definition of obligated producer in each state, along with CA's guidance on the definition of producer to determine their company's obligation. A great place to reference CA's guidance materials on the definition of producer in various states is CA's Producer Resource Center, available on our website. The participant producer agreement is sent to producers after completing CA's initial registration form. The PPA contains the terms and conditions between producers and CAA, outlining the actions to be taken by both producers and CAA to ensure that statutory obligations are fulfilled under state EPR laws. In 2024, CAA conducted an extensive consultation process with registered producers, and we have incorporated that feedback into the final version of the document. At this time, we are not accepting further edits to the PPA. Companies that sign the PPA will receive access to CAA's reporting portal, where they can complete state registration, find CAA guidance and fee schedules, and receive access to further training sessions hosted by the producer services team to begin preparing in a timely manner for state reporting and payment. Now for a deeper dive on the topic areas of the PPA. Starting off with purpose. The purpose of the PPA is to establish a working relationship between your company and CAA by outlining consistent terms and conditions between participant producers and CAA. CAA's obligations include administering the program plan in each relevant state, developing a methodology to set fee rates per state, providing producer support for registration, reporting, and fee payment. CAA is also able to register producers on their behalf with state regulators. For example, in regards to CAA's deadline to register in California, CAA will register producers with CalRecycle on their behalf if producers opt into pro registration and reporting during their registration process in CAA's producer portal for California. We will talk more about this a little later in today's 102 webinar. The participant producer is obligated by the PPA to identify themselves, share accurate information about the company, report data to CAA in states where it signs a state addenda, maintain accurate records with CAA, and pay fees in a timely manner once producers have signed a state addenda and reported their data. The PPA also includes confidentiality and signatory clauses. Starting with confidentiality, the producer's information will be protected and may only be viewed by entities who need to know and may only be used for the program. What does that mean? Some states require the pro to share a list of registered producers, and CAA will provide that in accordance with the law. We will not share any competitive information externally, including revenue or anything that puts us non-compliant with antitrust laws. Our IT systems are secure, and we enforce secure restrictions on how any data is shared externally. Lastly, for the topic area of signatory, we are required that an authorized representative sign the participant producer agreement. This person is authorized to act on behalf of the producer to bind the company, sign legal contracts, and submit material supply data to CAA. How and when will I receive my PPA? Once registrations are received, that would be filling out the registration form on CAA's website, the CAA team will review the registration and send over the PPA to the authorized representative via DocuSign for signature. Generally, this is done within 1 business day. There have been instances where the DocuSign email is blocked by a company's spam filter, so to avoid any delays or disruption, it can be helpful to contact your IT team to whitelist inbound traffic from @docusign.circularaction.org. By default, if you register multiple entities, a PPA will be sent to each entity for signature. If you would prefer to have only the parent entity receive the PPA to sign on behalf of the parent and subsidiary entities, you are able to do so. Please get in contact with CAA at producer.support@circularaction.org to facilitate this parent PPA exception. Now that we discussed the PPA and what it entails, we'll turn to the state addenda. They are complementary agreements. The state addendum is what formally obligates your company in a particular state. If you do not complete state registration in the producer portal in a state, you will not be sent that state's addendum. The state addendum does obligate producer fees and dues with CAA. Therefore, they are written in conjunction with the state program plans. Importantly, companies that sign the PPA will not be able to report state data to CAA until they sign the state program's corresponding state addendum. So reviewing and signing the state addendum in a timely manner after receiving the addendum is necessary to complete reporting. Right, moving on to discuss the Oregon state addendum that is currently available for signature. The state addendum for Oregon includes the clauses you see here, and in general, other state addenda follow a similar layout. I'll spend a few minutes overviewing the topic areas on the left, starting with definitions. This sets clear definitions of the terms used in the document. Next, for exemptions, this includes details around the state-specific exemptions, which are also outlined in CAA guidance in the Producer Resource Center. If you have any questions on exemptions, I recommend emailing producer.support@circularaction.org. Next, for the topic area of reporting, This has the minimum reporting requirements in Oregon, including the categories and other expectations. In regards to record keeping, this has our parameters for keeping and maintaining accurate records and the audit rights of CAA. Moving on to fees, this has details about how the fee rates will be set and an overview of the fee methodology. To note on the fee section, this does not explicitly outline what the fee rates for each cover material category will be. These fee rates change each year as the program costs and volume changes each year. We publish a unique fee schedule each year, but do not require a new signature of the state addendum each year. Currently, the fee schedules for the 2025 and 2026 Oregon program years are available for download in the producer portal. You can also find the 2026 fee schedule for Oregon on the Oregon page of CAA's website. The last topic area is compliance. The Oregon State Addendum outlines CAA's compliance and enforcement duties with respect to the implementation of the Oregon program. In regards to compliance and accurate fees, it's in the best interest of producers and CAA to be able to ensure that all data is accurately reported and that all obligated producers are participating. The Colorado State Addendum similarly follows the topic areas that were just discussed in the Oregon State Addendum. Following a comments and consultation period, the Colorado State Addendum was made available for producer signature in June of 2025. I will not go through each topic area here again, but you are welcome to pause the video for a more detailed overview of the Colorado State Addendum. And lastly, the California Interim State Addendum is now available for producers to sign as of September of 2025. It is only sent to producers who have signed the PPA and have also completed portal registration for California in the producer portal, similar to other state addenda. The California Interim State Addendum does follow a similar format as the Oregon and Colorado State Addenda, with the addition of early fee obligations. Early fee rates in California are not yet finalized. They will be finalized this summer of 2026 ahead of early fee invoicing in August of 2026. Currently, CA does have estimated early fee rate ranges posted in the producer portal for producer review and budgeting purposes. For more information on budgeting, fees, and fee setting, you are welcome to sign up for an upcoming 103 webinar that covers these topics in more detail. Now, what is the difference between a state addendum, like ones that we have currently for Oregon and Colorado, and an interim state addendum? Now, the California Interim State Addendum includes just the provisions required during this pre-producer responsibility plan phase. It does also allow CA to collect early fees and gather initial reporting required to successfully draft and adopt the California Producer Responsibility Plan that is currently under development by CAA. After the regulations in California are finalized and the Producer Responsibility Plan is developed, CA will replace the California Interim State Addendum with a more robust state addendum similar to the Oregon State Addendum and the Colorado State Addendum. At that time, any producer who has initially signed the California Interim State Addendum will also then be required to sign the finalized full California State Addendum. How will I receive my state addendum? Just like the PPA, the state addendum is sent via DocuSign to your authorized representative. Only after CA receives back the signed PPA are the state addenda sent out for signature. That would be once portal credentials are issued and your company completes state registration in the producer portal. Although we have stated this already, I think it is worth repeating here that although you can start your state report in the producer portal, producers will not be able to hit submit on a state report in the producer portal until they have signed the corresponding state addendum. We do ask that you do not forward the DocuSign email sent to the authorized representative to someone else to sign. If you do need to change your authorized representative, please reach out to us at producer.support@circularaction.org, and we will update your company's contact info and resend the state addendum to the correct individual. Lastly, in regards to the state addenda, CAA has a survey out until February 27th, 2026 to receive producer feedback for 4 interim state addenda that are currently in development for Maine, Maryland, Minnesota, and Washington. We conduct a similar consultation process for every agreement that is developed by CAA, as producer feedback is a critical component to finalizing agreements to be able to send out for producer signature. Another important note here, as stated earlier in this webinar, but once agreements are finalized by CAA, all producers are required to sign the same version of those finalized agreements. So the consultation process is where producers can ensure that their input is being heard and incorporated into the final versions. So if you're watching this after February 27th, this slide serves as more of a PSA that we did conduct a consultation process for these 4 addenda. And if you're watching this before, you still might have time to enter your feedback into the consultation survey. All registered producers with CAA had previously been sent this consultation survey link. If you're watching this before the end of February, you're also welcome to reach out to producer.support@circularaction.org, and we can send you a copy or send you a link to this consultation survey. Great. I'll now turn it back over to Savannah to talk about California registration and pro reporting.
Great. Thank you, Matt. All right, so back on August 1st, 2025, California registration opened in the producer portal. Registration in California slightly differs from registration in Oregon and Colorado because in California's draft regulation, obligated producers are required to register with CowerCycle to comply with the EPR requirements. For producers, you can now use the producer portal to complete the additional registration steps and add California and the required additional registration information to your account. To complete the registration, you'll be asked some additional questions, including if you would prefer to do pro reporting or self-reporting. CAA recommends that producers select pro reporting to take full advantages of the services CAA as the pro has to offer. If a producer selects pro reporting, it means that CAA will manage your registration and reporting to CowerCycle. This will result in automatic registration with CowerCycle, aggregated reporting of your producer data, and simplified data submission where you would only have to report to CAA. If a producer were to choose self-reporting, this means that you would manage your own registration and reporting to CowerCycle. As a producer choosing self-reporting, you would have to register with CowerCycle directly and submit your individual supply data both to CAA and to CowerCycle on your own rather than having CAA submit everything for you. So as a quick summary, if you select pro reporting, it means that you would only register and report with CAA and you would handle all of the registration and reporting to CowerCycle. And if you were to choose self-reporting, you would have to register and report both to CAA and to CowerCycle. Okay, some next steps for California. So to begin California registration, producers who have registered with CAA start by logging into the producer portal. Once you've logged into the producer portal, navigate to the state registration tab at the top of your screen and click on the register button next to California. Please note that if you've already completed your registration in California, the action next to California will state in progress pending addendum, or if you have signed your addendum, it will say registered. Additionally, this is an additional registration step for California, meaning that filling out the account registration form does not mean you have completed your California registration. This additional registration step happens after you have already registered and signed the PPA with CAA. Once you've clicked the register button next to California on the state registration page, you will be asked to provide some additional information as you can see here on the right. This form will ask you to confirm CAA as your pro in California by selecting yes to the first statement if you wish to have CAA as your pro. It will then ask you to provide a physical address for your company. This address needs to be based in the United States, and if your company is not based in the US and does not have any US office address, you can enter CAA's address. After providing an address, you'll select either pro reporting or self-reporting. As a reminder, if a producer were to choose pro reporting, it means that CAA will manage your registration and reporting to CalRecycle. And if a producer were to choose self-reporting, this means that you would manage your own registration and reporting to CalRecycle. After completing the California State Registration Form, you will click Submit, and now the next action in the state registration page next to California will appear in progress pending addendum. The California Interim State Addendum, or the CAISA, has been available since September 2025 and will be sent to your authorized representative via DocuSign for signature after your California registration has been completed. Producers will need to sign the CAISA before submitting your California producer report. And with that, we just want to say thank you all for watching this recording. And as a reminder, please continue to stay engaged with Circular Action Alliance. A first step is to register with CAA. We also have additional resources on our Producer Resource Center. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter on our website to stay updated with the latest state updates and other additional resources. If you have any questions about registration, please feel free to email us at producer.support@circularaction.org. And lastly, this was the second series in our onboarding series. So we also have our 101 producer onboarding and 103 budgeting for EPR fees also available in a recorded version on our Producer Resource Center. So once again, thank you for watching this recording, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.